Mobile, Alabama. Mr. John Williams.
Right.
Great day in Mobile, Alabama.
Great day. That's right. Good morning, Gina and CJ and Bess.
Morning.
How you doing, Bess?
Great, thank you.
I'm happy to hear that.
This is
Doc,
the day.
you doing all right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is the day the Lord hath made,
Oh, don't start that, Joe.
Let us rejoice and be glad.
and be glad in it.
Come on, pictures of him, Deacon Richardson.
Madam Clerk, could you send out the contact information for the new public affairs?
Sure.
And if you would share that with the 10th floor as well, it'd be great.
Say that again, Mr. Williams?
The new public affairs representative for the city council. Just want to
Okay,
share it with the
we're,
10th floor too.
We're ready.
I think that's been shared already, actually.
All right, we're rolling.
We're live.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am. Good morning to each and every one. We appreciate seeing each and every one's bright and sunny faces, and we're going to turn it over now to our city clerk.
this is the pre-meeting of the Mobile City Council Tuesday, March the 30th. We have approval of minutes from March 23rd.
No issues on my
Good to
part.
meet you.
We will have our monthly finance report this morning at 10:30. Appeals, we have requests for waiver of the noise ordinance on June the 5th from 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. at the Bragg Mitchell Mansion. April 21st from 4:30 to 10 p.m. On Stevens Lane. Public hearings, today is a public hearing to rezone property located at the east terminus of Blue Ridge Boulevard, extending to the west terminus of Old Dobbin Drive North, the west terminus of Harness Way, the north terminus of Creekline Drive, and the north terminus of Valleydale Drive from R1, R2, and B1 to R1.
And that's been withdrawn. Chris can answer questions, I guess, from a legal standpoint, but it's my understanding we are to table this since it's basically moot now.
That's correct.
And I'll have just a short statement for the record at our council meeting.
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. We have Tony Pope wishes to address the council regarding the revocation of his noise ordinance waivers. Essential COVID-19.
Hold up on that. Did we revoke one of his requests?
On the agenda today.
It's on the agenda today.
Yes, sir. I've made a request that the items that we approved on last week, I've asked that they be added back to the agenda so that we could deny those requests.
The ones in the parks.
The ones in Bienville and Cathedral Square. Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha.
Essential COVID-19 items held over. 64036 is the ordinance to rezone the property located on Blue Ridge Boulevard. 21125 authorized management agreement with Mobile Botanical Gardens. This one needs to be tabled. This was the original one. 09020 ordinance to recreate and reestablish a police citizens community relations advisory council.
All right, this was done at,
88.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to unmute. This one was done at my request. I there was two purposes. One, so that we could fund them, but also so that they have a basis which to act. And if you had an appointment, there's a provision also for everybody just to go for 2 years automatically. Now we can edit that part. We had to start somewhere, so that's where Chris and I landed.
And if I could be listed as a sponsor as well, this, which since it's the original language of the group, I was very involved as your public safety chairperson the year we brought this together, and it took a lot of community debate, a lot of consensus building to get it in the condition it is. If this new group or wants to see changes, they can certainly advocate for them. We could look at that. But since we're sending it in the condition that it was in its original form, I'd like to be a sponsor of this as well.
Question. Lavon?
Ms. Gregory?
Yeah, Lisa, I'd like to be a sponsor as well, but my question goes back to the funding. And I know that Chris and Ricardo have been looking at ways for us to be able to fund this group. And I was just wondering if we had worked that out officially and gotten with the group to tell them what they need to do in order for us to be able to fund them, because many of us had already requested those funds to be transferred. And I think we just need to figure out where we are with that.
I've not spoken to them. I don't remember we gave money to the Human Relations Commission.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and well, they're in the same situation as this group. I think you had recommended, Chris, to get a bank ID, something like that. And Ricardo had been involved in it as well. I know I've requested funding for the Police Citizens Advisory Committee, and I think others have too. I just want to see where we are in our efforts to be able to give them the funding.
I think
y'all can allocate the funding to them. They're gonna have to take it upon themselves to go get a tax ID number, which takes 5 minutes, and you can get it online, and then they just need to open a bank account so they can deposit the check.
In the group's name,
Right.
that the city would be cutting the checks for this particular group. I think that's the
Right.
issue, is that it can't go to an individual. But so Chris, do we have to have a resolution that says the council will each give out of discretionary in the name of this, so that the city knows how to proceed, as long as they meet those criterias of the tax ID and the name of the group, so that we know that money can only be allocated for that group's expenditure?
Yeah, it's just like a discretionary funds resolution.
Okay,
Just like,
can you draft something so that we could perhaps get that for next week's, or I know you don't have time to do it between now and our 10:30, but that would be something I think we have to show to other groups as well, because we have the STR and they were asking, I audited their meeting, and it's the same thing. They want to Zoom, they want to get organized, but they don't have the capacity unless they elected a group just like ours did on this one. They have their president, they did everything they were supposed to do, but they're kind of left hanging because the clerk's office can't keep doing their organization for them. We have to give them the wings they need.
how much do you want to give them? And who's going to be on it?
Did they ask for 1,000, this group, the police?
Well, the Police Advisory Council?
Yes,
yeah.
they gave us an amount they needed.
Yeah, I think it was 1,000, something
Yes.
like that.
It was 166 for each of us, I think.
Yeah, or that was either them or it was the Human Relations Commission. I can't remember, but because there were 2 requests and each of them were, fairly low amounts.
Right.
So I guess, yeah, Chris just needs to give us the exact wording so that we can maybe redo those requests. And then we need to get with both of those advisory councils to let them know what they have to do in order to receive the money.
Right.
All right, I'll do the resolution and leave the amount blank, and y'all can decide who's gonna be the sponsor.
Mr. President,
Mr. Richardson.
yes. The issue with this group and funding had to do with the tenure had expired, and they were no longer a legal group. That was the issue. They were no longer a legal group of the city because their tenure expired. So what we're doing today, we are putting them back on and making them legal again. And we're not setting a date for it to expire. We don't have that on no other group that we have appointed. And all of this about the tax ID number I have given to the art museum. No one asked me anything about a tax ID number. I was given to VIA. Nobody said nothing about a tax ID number. My point is, let's not put a burden on them that if we're gonna do that, then that ought to be done to everybody. I let it go. We can't pick out, we're gonna aim our gun at these, but we're not firing on these over here. Let's treat this group just like we have treated all other groups. Once we vote them in, it's a legal committee established by this city council, and we are eligible now to donate to them. And all this
Fred,
stuff.
you're incorrect about your groups that when they come forward, the city asks that they have to fill out all that paperwork from the city's revenue department.
I understand.
And so we're just trying to take a group that doesn't really fit any equation. And therefore, by our resolution, will help the city know it can direct money to them. So don't say VIA doesn't have all this information. Believe me, they do. And so do neighborhood associations, or the city would not give the revenue to them. It's really a city policy. It's a great policy because it's making sure that it's not going to an individual. We would be remiss if we did that. So I don't think we're signaling this group out. We're trying to give it its wings so that it can do something that the council is asking them to do.
Right. And we have neighborhood groups. I think all of us have given to our neighborhood groups out there. Only thing I'm saying is that we're not going to create a bar separate and indifferent from the bar that we set for all other groups. That's all I'm saying.
Got it.
And I don't believe we are. I think we are, like Beth said, we're making it possible because when you mention these other groups, they all have 501c3s. They are incorporated differently, but we are trying to make it possible so that these two councils can receive funding from us. So this is a good thing that we are trying to do, not a negative. But I do have one other point in that I know they're concerned about Zoom meetings and that sort of thing. Well, very soon, we're not going to be meeting via Zoom either. So they need to keep that in mind, that if they're looking at Zoom as a cost, that's probably not going to be in the equation for much longer.
Good point.
But they can work that out among themselves, I guess.
They're not legal yet. We got to vote them in.
Mr. President,
Mr. Daves.
thank you. I will support the recreation of the Police Advisory Committee. I supported it the first time. Once we worked out the compromise language, I supported it. I continue to support it, as I've said all along. I hope that this time around that the council persons will ensure that their appointees meet the requirements set out in the ordinance. I'll be appointing someone to this committee sometime soon. I'm happy to support from my discretionary funds, join in and support from my discretionary funds, whatever amount it is we find necessary to give to the committee. But so let's go forward with it. I'm voting for it. Stop. Chris, it would be helpful if you could send us an opinion. It doesn't really have to be an opinion, but I need to know it'd be helpful to know what are the parameters. When a group comes to us and wants funding from our discretionary funds, what are the things they have to do or have in order to get help? because there's all these steps that keep changing. Now we got to have a letter in a certain form. I don't know if they have to have a tax ID number or not. There's just there. It just is kind of, and maybe it's just me, but to me it's very vague what it is these groups have to have or what they have to do in order to receive discretionary funds. It'd be helpful to have that in one piece of paper.
I can get you that. Basically, this is not a corporation. It's never been incorporated. It would cost twice as much more than what you want to get them to try and get them incorporated. The issue is, if you cut them a check, they can't cash it because they don't have a bank account, and they can't get a bank account without a tax ID number. So it has nothing to do really with, I mean, the city may require it to issue a check, but y'all can issue, allocate money to any group, and, they just got to be able to cash the check. So it's really a back end problem for these guys, not a front end problem for you. You can allocate anything you want to. And I think they are a legal entity in that there's a thing called a unincorporated nonprofit association, which is just basically a group of 2 or more people together for some sort of nonprofit purpose, which is what this is.
And you can get an EIN on that, a taxpayer identification number for a unincorporated profit association.
Yeah, there's basically an other box on the form SS4 with the IRS that, anybody can get a tax ID number if they, submit an application and put in the information about their address and stuff.
Okay, well, it'd be helpful to have, like I say, it'd be helpful just to have all this on a piece of paper.
I'll send it out.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. Vice President.
Yes, first I'd like to ask the city clerk to add me on as a sponsor also. And second, I would like, for our attorney, to ask our attorney to assist the chairman of this group to make sure that they follow the appropriate protocols of establishing what they need to establish, especially in trying to get the bank account, because I don't think they know exactly, the proper steps that they need to take and everything. So if our attorney can assist them with that matter, that would be great and everything.
Mr. Vice
And
President,
if I
I
could
agree
comment, because
wholeheartedly. Mr. Hollis, if you could work with Dr. Richardson and Mr. Marks and any other person appointed by the committee to make certain that they know exactly what needs to be done and provide any assistance that you might be able to provide on our behalf to their benefit, it would really be helpful.
I'm really glad that Joel Davis brought this up for clarification. And that is, when a neighborhood association comes forward and we put it on our agenda and deem it a public process, I think that's, a big benchmark that the council has to do for seeing an entity receive funds from the city. But it's my understanding that the paperwork these groups go through, and this is operational, so it's out of our realm, but they're asked to become like a vendor, which is totally different because they're not contractual and they're not going to be necessarily repeated. So if I would love to hand this to a neighborhood president too, that has come to my office, I'm sure many of yours as well, a way for them to solve and work with the city on what's required once we deem it a public process. So that will be really, really good. Thank you for bringing that up.
That's a good point, Bess. When Chris writes this, it'd be good if Chris could write it kind of addressed, not to us, but to an organization who might be applying for something.
Well, and just to make sure that we're on the same page here, when neighborhood organizations or any of these other nonprofits come to us for funding, they have to be 501c3s, correct?
No.
No, ma'am. Public purpose.
They are all
Okay,
homeowners associations are
That's been something though that
No,
has been required when I've had neighborhood organizations asking for funding. I said, are you 501c3? And they said no. And from the past, I've never been able to give them funds because they're not a 501c3.
And
If
see,
they're,
that-
if
public
they're,
purpose.
that's
yeah.
just my point, Gina, is that's what I thought too. I thought you had to be a legal entity. You had to either be, you had to be some kind of corporation, a nonprofit corporation with 501c3 tax exempt status in order to do it. It turns out you don't. And it's just, like I said, it's just very vague. And
Yeah.
we need to be able to know, and the people need to be able to know.
Exactly, because there are a lot of opportunities for groups to work in the public, like the entryways, do maintenance, that's all common. And they're actually helping the city of Mobile, but then they get stopped. But again, it's something, once we deem it public, that's the biggest benchmark there is. We publicly say that they're going to serve a public purpose. And that's, gives them the starting point for receiving
Well,
public funds.
Getting that
And I'm not
information.
saying they can do it loose or anything,
Yeah.
because it has to be in the name of their group. It cannot be an individual.
Well, they still have to have the bank account and the tax ID number.
Yes, and that's the tax ID number.
But it's limited some of my groups before because they couldn't afford to go through the whole process to get a 501c. They couldn't afford it.
Well,
And so I
believe
was
me,
told
Right.
that you cannot give to anybody unless they are a 501c3. So
That's
that
not good.
limited my ability to give to some of these groups.
but
Nope.
it shouldn't.
President,
Mr. Aldrich.
being a 501c3 or not, doesn't matter. All these neighborhood associations are pretty much incorporated as nonprofits. You can be a nonprofit, but 501c3 is just another step so that you can receive tax exempt donations. But you don't have to be 501c3 to get money. You do need to be some kind of legal entity. And we figured out this way for these, the police council and all, to get a tax ID number, but everybody else, generally, they need to be a corporation of some kind, but it doesn't have to be 501c3.
Okay, well, see, a lot of these neighborhood associations are not incorporated.
Right. They're not.
Well,
They
they
just-
could use the same method, but it would be better if they did incorporate. But they could use the same method, the unincorporated association.
That's exactly right.
This is all,
They could, now that this has been made clear over.
Right.
years,
Crystal,
other groups can take advantage of it. I wish I had known this years before, but I was always stopped.
well, bottom line is, I think the finance chair needs to talk to the new finance director and make sure that what we think and what the policies are align. Because we can think whatever we want. We can write all kind of letters.
Oh, that's
and
true.
Unless the administration agrees, and I think they will if Joel were to interact with Director Holt on this issue.
well, they're probably going to want to, this probably needs to go through legal.
But philosophically,
Okay, I think we done spent a lot of time on this one.
All right. We could mosey on to the next one, Madam City Clerk.
88021, ordinance deeming property located at 2318 St. Stephen's Road not now needed for public or municipal purposes and authorizing the sale to Lee's LLC. 08211 212 are approving purchase orders for fuel for the Wave Transit and to CDW Government for annual Microsoft software subscriptions. 09213, reallocate funds from Convention Center Fund to various Convention Center repairs, maintenance projects. 21214, authorized contract to Sunrise Network Solutions for security upgrades at various public works facilities. 21215, authorized contract with Harris Contracting for Medal of Honor Park athletic fields concessions and restroom improvements. 21216, authorized agreement with Bogert for staff augmentation services for miscellaneous capital projects. 21217, authorizing memorandum of understanding with the Alabama Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, State Lands Division regarding Helen Wood Park. 60229, authorized settlement agreement and release of claims, Mary Jackson. Essential COVID items being introduced for the first time, 03232 and 233 are approving the appointment of Lawrence Baptiste as Executive Director of Public Safety and Robert Holt as Executive Director of Finance.
How about 231, Philip DeKaiser?
That's been withdrawn.
That's
Oh,
withdrawn.
it's been, yeah.
Brad, did you withdraw that?
Yes, he is not, he's not an architect. It
Okay,
requires, that's what it requires. So we're asking him, get with those boards and see what else he can qualify for. It requires, an architect. I didn't know that it required that.
okay.
08234, approved purchase order to Carrier Corporation for
Can
the
we,
County
uh,
Hudson Senior.
Can we take up these two appointments? Can we take up these two staff appointments today?
That's the same thing I was going to ask. That vacancy needs to be filled. And I think we've all had an opportunity to familiarize ourselves with it. We've never held them up before.
Anybody opposed to taking them up?
I'm not.
Let's go.
Cool. Thank y'all.
08235, approved purchase order to Sunbelt Fire for repair on aerial fire apparatus, $20,570
Hold up.
and 33 cents.
Hold up, Madam Clerk. Is it not true that the mayor is going to make Barbara the chief of staff?
Yeah.
What, I don't see that one.
That he's
That
essentially,
doesn't take council action
yeah,
for
yeah.
chief of staff. I don't
Oh.
believe it does.
I don't know.
I don't think so either, but I
I'm
don't
almost
remember.
sure it doesn't.
No, he's not.
Yeah, by law, there's like 3 directors that we have to approve. It's in the law.
Right.
No.
Mr. President,
Ricardo.
It doesn't require. All right.
But is that Mr. Woods?
this is Jim Barber. There are 5 ZOGB yes, sir. There are 5 ZOGB positions that have to be approved or confirmed by council. That's the police chief, the fire chief, the executive director of public works, the executive director of finance, and executive director of public safety. So chief of staff is actually an at-will appointment by the mayor.
Correct.
Mr. President,
Mr. Richardson?
I believe the Zogby Act would say all executive directors. I don't care what they owe.
Yeah.
If you're an executive director, then you need to come before the council.
Yeah, but yeah, not executive.
Not according to the Zogby bill. We got to go by that, right?
That's what I'm going by.
Yeah, that's 5 positions.
That's. It's 3 department heads and fire chief and
But-
police chief.
Because that's all we had when they created the Zogby Act. The only executives we had to come before us. We have now created more, and the rest of them got to come now. They could put the executive director over a department that we had never created. So they named what the city had, and they said, "Oh, those directors must come before us." The city has now created extra executive directors. They got to follow the same road. They got to get on the same path as those that was in the Zogby Act.
Everybody just give Chris on that, Fred, after the meeting.
But we're not dealing with, the chief of staff is not in the executive director. We can move on, Mr.
Yeah.
President.
Madam City Clerk?
08236, approved purchase order to Image Trend for annual subscription for Elite Rescue Software, $90,375. 08237, approved purchase order to Stevers Ford Lincoln Inc. for Ford F-450 Crew Cab, $47,223. 21238, authorized contract with Ica Construction Corporation for Michael Figures Park Improvement, $793,000. 25239,
Mr. President,
Mr.
this,
Richardson?
this one is several years old. Can we move this one up? It's several years old. We have a lady who served with the city for 56 years. We have a statue in her honor. It's a part of this. It's the entry to the Michael Figures Park. It's something that is transformative for that community. They've been waiting on it, complaining about it. The money been there. We're finally getting to it. I would like to see it moved up. Do you have anybody opposed to it?
Right, is there any objection?
Okay, I had to go through 2 cycles for Medal of Honor Park that goes back to 2000, and I think it was funded in 19, maybe needed some money last year. It's finally
I'm not
going
against
out.
the best.
It
I'm
was
not against the
designed
best.
prior, and
We're
I
going down the
just,
same road. You're going the same road I'm going down.
right, but it took 2 readings to get that done. And
But,
went under the
did you-
microscope for DBE and
I'll check
percentages.
with our Shanique. We have a DBE on this.
Can somebody give me the number we're on? I mean, I'm,
That 21,230,
21238.
21,238.
that's
Yes.
$800,000.
Fred, I just don't, if we waive the rule on this one, we might as well waive, I mean, we're setting the precedent for waiving the rule on all of them.
I don't disagree.
But move on.
Good try.
25239, grant easement to Alabama Power Company for underground utility installation on vacant lot located at 1814 Kibbe Street. 240, determine an appropriation to the Landfair South Yester Oak Civic Association serves a public purpose and approved payment, $1,837.50. 241, determine an appropriation to Southwest Mobile Chamber of Commerce serves a public purpose and approved payment, $5,000. 242, determine an appropriation to Spencer West Lawn Elementary School serves a public purpose and approved payment, $1,000. 243, approved settlement agreement and release of claims, Coleman. 244, rescind noise ordinance waivers for Tony Pope for Bienville Square and Cathedral Square. 245, rename Earl Street as Dr. Michael E. Jackson Boulevard, and we have a description. It will be from the corner of Lawrence Street to Fisher's Alley.
This isn't an honorary, this is an actual renaming?
Right,
Yes.
there's no one on the street other than the church on that section of the street.
Right,
And when you get to Fisher's Alley, that's a part, that corner.
and the pastor there is Dr. Michael E. Jackson. He recently retired after 45 years of dedicated service to the Aimwell Church, and so I am proud to be bringing this change on the church's behalf.
I would like to join as a sponsor.
We generally take them out of order. Are they going to attend and you're going to make a presentation at the beginning?
Who is this, John?
We generally, you'll have somebody there and you'll have a mock sign and
Oh, not,
We
we'll have a ceremony a little later, but I don't anticipate anybody connected to the Zoom this morning. No, sir.
Mr. President,
Mr. Vice President.
yeah, I'm for this 100%, and I think this is a great honor and everything. And I know that you was the one who brought this to the council and to the and sponsoring in this too. But I agree with Councilman Williams. I think it was this great an honor. Be nice if Dr. Jackson could be available on Zoom as we recognize this great honor to him and everything. But again, it's your call and everything. So
It's the first read.
Right.
You can do that by next week, Don.
We will try to arrange to have Dr. Jackson be with us on next week when we officially vote this in. And then we'll also have at the appropriate time a ceremony there on the grounds in front of the church. And so I'll make that contact today, Mr. Vice President.
yeah, and I'd like to be listed as a sponsor also.
Mr. President,
Ms. Gregory,
since
absolutely.
since I believe Reverend Jackson lives in my district,
He does.
why don't you add me on there too? I mean, 44 years in any business is pretty remarkable. So I would
That's
like to.
right. Madam City Clerk, let's
21. Oh.
let's add Mr. Vice President and Mr. Richardson and Ms. Gregory and anyone else. Mr. Williams, you're welcome to join. Come on board.
Just the whole council.
Absolutely. That would be, I'm sure he would be proud to know that. I'm gonna give him a call this evening and this is great.
(21-246) authorized project development agreement with Mobile County and SALP for road infrastructure costs for development of an industrial park near I-10 and Theodore Dawes Road, $3 million. 60-247 approved settlement agreement and release of claims Haley and Santos, Esquilin. Announcements.
Mr. President,
Mr. Daves.
ones I have that we're going to waive the rule on are the two appointments, Chief Batiste and Mr. Holt. Then 60-240, 241, 242 are discretionary distributions. 60-244 rescind the noise ordinance waivers for Reverend Pope. And 46-245 rename Earl Street. Any objection? to
No,
any
we're
of
gonna,
No,
I thought
we're
we were
gonna do
holding
Earl
to
Street
rename
next
Earl
week.
Earl Street next week.
Yeah, so that they.
Okay, I have a question for the chair of the council CIP, where there's a meeting directly after of that committee. Is that, do I have that correct?
Yes, we probably just take a 5-minute break and then we'll resume with the CIP meeting.
To your knowledge, have you received any information about how the city prioritizes projects? Because I had brought that up a number of weeks ago and I've been waiting for a response. So I'm hoping I didn't get anything in writing, I was told something would come. And so this is something that I would think all of the council people would like to know, what the operational procedures are for rolling out our CIP projects. Why some things move quicker than others.
Councilwoman, we're prepared to discuss. This is Jim DeLapp. We're prepared to discuss that at the meeting.
Okay, that'd be great. I'm really looking forward to it. And also, just so everybody knows, it's also a great day that the Lord has made. However, it is also Doctor's Day, ironically, and I will be presenting a proclamation in their honor. So just wanted to let everyone know, and be great if we could do it at maybe, I know the mayor always goes first and gives his information, but if it could go right after that, because we're hoping to have Dr. Johnson. Also, she is the president of the Medical Society to accept and Wendy Betzel, and these are, you know, busy people. So if we could get it done kind of early, that would be great. Appreciate it.
That would be fine.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Ms. Richardson,
um, Vice President, I also would like for you to raise the issue at our CIP meeting regarding resurfacing. We're using CIP money to resurface. They started in October, in November, in Trinity Gardens, and they left. They came back last week and they resurfaced Barrack Lane. I have other streets needing resurfacing. I don't know when they are coming back. They are up and down, in and out. We need a schedule where they are and when they come in where. We need to know, and they need to tell us what they have done. We need a progress report on resurfacing. How many districts they are finished, how many they started on and left. We need to know what's going on. Am I saying aloud? Is this what they done to everybody? They hit and miss and leave. They told us it's cost extra money to drag that equipment all over town. Well, seems to me it's been drug all over the city to get them in, leave, get them in, leave. They dragging it has to be costing the city money to do that. So I want to need an update on resurfacing. The whole resurfacing program, they use the CIP money. It's a CIP meeting. We need a CIP update.
Yes, so we can make that request.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Mr. Days.
I think my colleagues know that I'm not going to be able to be at the meetings this afternoon. I'll be at our regular city council meeting, but I can't be at any meeting after that. I have a long-standing obligation with respect to a nonprofit I'm involved in that's going to take all afternoon. That's been planned for 2 months or so, involves a Zoom with people all over the country. So anyway, I'm just not going to be able to be there. But I look forward to hearing a report. Thank you.
Hey, do we need to take up that legal matter, to pay what's it called, when a settlement agreement?
I don't think so. I thought they tabled that.
Did we? Then we need.
I think they added one, a different one.
Yeah, but the one that we were thinking about, I think they decided we didn't need to.
So Coleman is going to be tabled?
I thought that was the addition.
It's
Does
right
Chris
there.
know?
Ricardo, somebody?
Chris, say it again. You want?
I think Gina may have been thinking of the executive session.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, we don't need to do that, but the settlement agreement that just got added, it'll just hold over a week.
Oh, okay. I thought we had to. Okay, got
All
it.
right. Very well.
And colleagues, I just want to briefly, I know the item has already been mentioned relative to the Mr. Pope and the denial of the Norris waiver request. I attempted on last week to, I had two very heated, passionate sectors of the population that were going back and forth about this particular agenda item, and I attempted to fashion a compromise that would have cut the time by half, the number of days by half, and the amount of time to less than 25%. And that compromise was satisfactory to neither side. And in light of that, and in light of the number of requests I got just in complete opposition, I've asked that those items be added back to the agenda so that we can deny them. Had Mr. Pope come in his usual fashion and ask for an hour here at one of these one-off parks, it probably would not have reached anybody's radar. But to have asked for 8 weeks and 4 hours at 2 parks at the same time just got the community really, really stirred up. And I'm all for preaching the gospel. I've got a long family history of that. So it has nothing to do with the subject matter, and it has all to do with the volume and regularity of the request. And so I hope to explain that to Mr. Pope today. And we hopefully can move forward.
All right.
Any other comments or questions or announcements? If not, we'll see each other at 10:30. Thank you.